And so our markets are the most liquid, and it's the place where people want to be. Over time, the question is, if some want to move away from the dollar, what will be the effect on us? I don't think it's something you would feel right away. Over time, they would have to create an ecosystem, economic ecosystem, whereby another currency becomes, a better currency for them to use. What we can do is we can make the dollar the most attractive currency by continuing to have the rule of law and open capital accounts and make it an attractive place for people to invest and to use in their businesses. There wouldn't be any short-term effect of that. Over time, though, I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency, and there have been times when that was the case, and so it's not really clear.
Imagine the U.S. government officially endorsing digital assets for the first time and pushing banks to issue their own stablecoins. Could this usher in XRP as the world's next reserve currency? For decades, the U.S. dollar held its unchallenged throne as the world's reserve currency. Yet today, a surprising shift is underway. For the first time in history, the U.S. government is openly embracing digital assets and stablecoins, a move so bold that it has flown under the radar. Why now? And what does this mean for the dollar's future? Most importantly, how does XRP fit into a plan that could replace the US dollar and reshape global finance forever? By the end of this story, you'll see how these developments connect back to the bold question: will XRP replace the US dollar?
Just wanted to hop on here and give you a reminder that on February 24th of 2021, the Fed's system that allows banks to move money back and forth went down for several hours. That's what Ripple does with XRP. They allow banks to easily send money back and forth, cross-border payments and on-demand liquidity. So I just wanted to remind you that this went down. It kind of looks like they're prepping to create a problem and give the solution. Also, that system is called FedWire, and just in 2016 there was 148 million transfers, and that was valued at $766 trillion in volume, which means like back and forth transfers. It added up to 766 trillion. Hopefully in the future we see that flowing through Ripple and maybe even XRP.
At a recent White House Digital Asset Summit, Treasury Secretary Scott Bent declared, "We are going to keep the U.S. dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stablecoins to do that." This simple statement carries earth-shaking implications for the dollar's reign. Two paths lie ahead. One leads to a tightly government-controlled system, and the other rewinds history to a free banking era where competing banks issued their own money. At the heart of this moment stands XRP, poised to channel the power of programmable dollars into the veins of global finance. This unexpected embrace of crypto primes XRP not just as a cutting-edge payment protocol, but as a political tool in Trump's grand design. The first question on everyone's mind is why the U.S. government would embrace stablecoins now. The answer is clear. The dollar faces unprecedented threats. Inflation is eroding purchasing power. Global trade is shifting away from dollar settlements, and rival nations are launching their own digital currencies. China's digital yuan aims to bypass U.S. sanctions, while BRICS discussions spark talk of alternative reserve currencies. In this contest for global influence, the U.S. can't afford to sit on the sidelines, especially if it hopes to secure the dollar's future on a blockchain backbone.
The US financial system needs a lot of liquidity, and most of the facilities are drying up. So number one, the reverse repo facility you see here mostly have dried up over the past 2 years. And you have the Treasury General Account only sitting at $550 billion, and it's actively being drained. This is the Treasury's checking account, basically cash that they can still draw against. And this is very tiny compared to the debt ceiling problem that needs to be resolved quite soon, because the US is meeting its debt debt ceiling, and nearly $3 trillion of US debt that will be meeting maturity this year and will need to be refinanced. So all of these will require extra liquidity, and basically once the TGA dries up, there is no more liquidity in the system. And if the Fed doesn't act in some way, both the Treasury and the regional banks could be coming in under pressure. And this is according to research that's done by Cross Border Capital, the Michael Howell, one of the forefront researchers of global liquidity, the concept.
Despite governments airing grievances against cryptocurrencies for years, 95% of stablecoins today are backed by US dollars. Yet these tokens originate with private companies, not banks. Tether and Circle issue massive volumes offshore, keeping the benefits out of the regulated system. Trump's plan seeks to change that by inviting American banks to issue their own stablecoins. A banking-backed XRP stablecoin could integrate seamlessly with the financial infrastructure, marrying regulatory oversight with blockchain innovation in a way that could finally answer the question, can XRP replace the US dollar? Behind the scenes, the Trump administration is rewriting the rules. An executive order has instructed federal agencies to strip away guidance that hinders digital assets. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency has been tasked with creating a framework for stablecoin integration into national banks. The IRS is poised to roll back strict crypto tax rules. These rapid changes signal more than experimental policy. They reveal a strategy to rebuild the financial system around programmable dollars, where every transaction could flow through the XRP ledger and tie back to the central question of replacing the dollar.
Hey, John, that's right. The Fed just now putting out its biannual financial stability report. This looks at risks and vulnerabilities in the financial system. And the top line here is that despite all the recent volatility, the impact on these vulnerability indicators that the Fed tracks has been limited. The Fed says valuations remain high across a range of assets. That's equities, treasuries, and real estate. And that is in spite of the declines that we've seen so far this month. They say liquidity in treasury and equity markets was low and got worse in April, but they also say in the report that market functioning remained orderly. Now, total debt levels for households and for businesses remain low as a share of GDP, but indicators of business leverage, they say, are elevated. Private credit continues to grow, and the report says that a sustained decline in earnings could put some vulnerable business borrowers at risk. Delinquencies on both credit cards and auto loans also both remain above their pre-pandemic levels. Now, the banking system, they say, remains sound and resilient overall.
The debate over stablecoin design brings us to two models. The first is a fully government-controlled digital dollar, where Washington centralizes issuance and tracks every digital buck, efficient but dystopian. The second harks back to a golden age of free banking in the early 1800s, when banks competed to issue their own notes. From 1837 to 1863, hundreds of banks minted currency, spurring innovation but also occasional instability. Advocates argue competition leads to better services for every user. If banks gain the green light to issue their own stablecoins, they will need infrastructure capable of handling trillions in transactions at lightning speed. XRP's ledger already processes transactions nearly instantly and at a microscopic cost. Imagine your bank issuing a digital dollar token on the XRP ledger, settlements that once took days to shrink to seconds. Programmable smart contracts could automate cross-border payments, corporate payrolls, and even tax collection. This powerful vision circles back to the idea that XRP might step into the dollar's shoes.
The United States Federal Reserve is considering the creation of a digital dollar. Cybercurrencies have many supporters, yet critics warn they would be a privacy nightmare.
One currency expert claims the removal of cash would push America closer to a totalitarian state. Dale Hurd has the story.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell told the House Financial Services Committee in March that the Fed had already begun testing a digital dollar.
What we're doing is experimenting in kind of early stage experimentation. How would this work? Does it work? What's the best technology? What's the most efficient?
Just like paper dollars, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, would be issued by the Federal Reserve. Those pushing for it say it would have several advantages over physical money. They say it could be used to fight inflation because the Fed would have more direct control over the money supply. It could speed up transaction payments and help fight money laundering.
Congress is racing to codify these changes. Two bills, the Stable Act in the House and the Genius Act in the Senate, aim to establish a federal framework for stablecoins. The Stable Act mandates one-to-one reserves in U.S. Treasuries or cash, while the Genius Act empowers banks to issue and settle stable coins under OCC oversight. Trump has set an August deadline for Congress. With regulators, lawmakers, and the White House in sync, the stage is set for a seismic shift in how money works, and for XRP technology to anchor a new digital dollar. Banks know what's coming. JP Morgan already launched a tokenized dollar for institutions. Wells Fargo explores tokenized deposits. Circle's USDC finds its way into payment networks like Visa. These moves signal a traditional finance embrace of digital dollars, quietly paving the path to XRP integration. When banks begin offering XRP-backed digital dollars, retail users will experience faster transfers, lower fees, and new financial products that were once exclusive to fintech startups, demonstrating how XRP could replace the dollar at scale.
How does that work?
Great question. And so this goes all the way back to like how a bill becomes a law, right? In like fifth grade. And there's lots of ways that this could play out, but the way that it's probably going to play out for stable coins is as follows. Senator Haggerty introduced his legislation, the Genius Act, in the Senate. He's got great support, and that bill began its way through the markup, but has not yet passed the full Senate. On the House side, French Hill and I have drafted the Stable Act, a very similar piece of legislation, but not the exact same. It has some small differences that we still need to iron out between our bill and the Genius Act in the Senate. We're going to be introducing an updated version of our bill in the near future as we work to kind of close this gap between the Senate bill and the House bill. If you said when they were first introduced, maybe they were 80% the same, I'd say now as we get to this new introduction, we'll see it about 90% the same.
In any revolution, pitfalls lurk. Cybersecurity threats, software bugs, or a major hack could shake confidence in digital dollars. Regulatory clashes might slow progress, and some banks may resist change or suffer implementation delays. Yet XRP's ledger has undergone extensive security audits, and its decentralized validator network resists single points of failure. These safeguards matter if XRP really will replace the US dollar, because trust in the system underpins currency stability. Corporate giants are already eyeing stablecoin partnerships. PayPal explores tokenized currencies, while MasterCard and American Express consider integrating digital dollars into their networks. If they choose XRP as a backbone, everyday shoppers could use digital wallets to tap into bank-issued XRP stablecoins when they tap their cards. This mainstream adoption would reinforce the idea that XRP stands at the frontier of a dollar replacement, connecting Netflix-style drama with real-world payments.
The ability to track transactions has a couple of elements that are very attractive to economic policymakers. One is to know where people are spending their money. Another is to track taxes and prevent evasion and that sort of thing.
Backers say the U.S. needs a digital dollar if it wants to remain the world's reserve currency. Opponents warn that it could be a very effective instrument of government control. Physical money has been called one of the last bastions of privacy. Laws like the Bank Secrecy Act have already stripped away most of the privacy from bank accounts and financial transactions.
Banks have really a ton of power that people don't realize to shut down accounts, to freeze accounts, and to end up holding them for really any number of reasons.
Currency expert James Rickards says a digital currency would move America closer to a totalitarian state.
Trump's broader financial agenda amplifies this shift. He's hinted at tax restructuring, lower income taxes, and higher tariffs, moves designed to boost domestic production and government revenue. By coupling tax reform with digital dollar adoption, his team aims to create a more transparent, efficient tax collection system. Programmable stablecoins could automate withholding, reducing errors and fraud. This synergy underscores why a dynamic platform like XRP is best suited to replace the US dollar and restore American financial leadership. For everyday Americans, the implications are profound. Faster payments mean instant payroll deposits, same-day bill payments, and real-time remittances without hefty fees. Programmability allows personalized financial services, like subscription management or automated savings. Weekend grocery runs, rent payments, or international family support all become smoother. This level of convenience reshapes how people interact with money, and at the core of this transformation is XRP technology powering the next-generation digital dollar. Globally, an XRP-powered dollar stablecoin could reinforce the American financial system while undercutting rivals. By offering a secure and efficient digital dollar, the U.S. can retain its currency's appeal in global trade, stifle efforts to bypass sanctions, and maintain financial leverage. Instead of watching other nations adopt alternative digital currencies, America leads with a proven blockchain solution. This strategic advantage links directly to the idea that XRP might replace the U.S. dollar and preserve U.S. influence. Still, questions remain. Will regulators maintain consistent rules across states? Can banks overcome legacy IT hurdles to integrate blockchain? How quickly will consumers embrace digital wallets over familiar bank apps? What if the plan falters and chaos ensues? Could confidence in the dollar collapse before XRP rises? These unknowns add suspense to Trump's bold gamble to replace the U.S. dollar with programmable stable coins and highlight why every eye should watch XRP's next moves.
Coins that are backed by U.S. Treasuries are helping the government be able to keep the dollar as an important reserve globally.
Bingo.
Because people
High probability of happening. We just don't know how bad it gets, right? But if you introduce this ability for these new issuers to have a stable coin, then they are the ones that soak up like a sponge or a bulkhead that catch these hyperinflated dollars that are coming back home. Could you speak to that as a...
Yeah, well, I'm glad you put your finger on it. I think the biggest threat to the American way of life is government money printing.
Yeah.
Everyone here...
Well said.
To illustrate how this might play out, picture a regional bank in Ohio issuing Ohio digital dollars on XRP's ledger. Savannah sends tuition to her sister in Kenya in seconds. A small Texan business pays suppliers in Japan without costly intermediaries. Programmable taxes are automatically deposited into IRS coffers. Each use case threads back to the central question: could XRP replace the US dollar? As real-world pilots launch, this vision faces its ultimate test. Consider the history that led us here. After World War II, the dollar cemented its reserve status under the Bretton Woods system. No one foresaw a digital challenger. Now, less than a century later, XRP technology offers a modern alternative. The idea that XRP could replace the US dollar once seemed far-fetched, but Trump's plan has turned speculation into policy. History is bending toward programmable currency, and XRP's ledger stands at that bend, ready to steer the future.
XRP is used in cross-border payments as a bridge currency that enables fast, secure, and low-cost transactions between different currencies and financial systems. Transactions are validated and processed by a decentralized network of nodes on the XRP ledger, which ensures speed, security, and transparency. XRP's low transaction fees and scalability make it an ideal solution for cross-border payments, especially for smaller and larger transactions that are cost-prohibitive using traditional banking systems.
Looking ahead, this plan could mark the biggest wealth-building opportunity of the decade. XRP holders could profit not just from price gains, but from network fees and service integrations as banks and fintechs adopt the ledger. Developers building on XRP may see unprecedented demand for tools and applications. For viewers wondering what comes next, the answer lies in holding a front-row seat to this unfolding story, and possibly holding XRP itself as the plot accelerates toward a new world order. If you followed every twist so far, you're asking what comes next and how you can prepare. Understanding policy updates, tracking pilot programs, and considering XRP's role could inform your decisions. Whether you're an investor or simply curious, watching the rollout of bank-issued stablecoins offers a front-row seat to history in the making. This isn't fiction. It's the story of XRP potentially replacing the US dollar, and you're part of the audience. The world stands on the brink of a financial revolution, and at its heart is the provocative idea that XRP could replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Trump's bold push to embrace digital assets and empower banks to issue stablecoins has ignited a transformation that links every policy change, tax reform, and banking innovation back to replacing the dollar with a programmable, blockchain-based alternative. As this vision becomes reality, XRP stands ready to become the pulse of global finance, and the answer to the question, will XRP replace the US dollar? The journey you've just seen raises the big question. Do you believe XRP can truly replace the US dollar under Trump's new plan? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive eye-opening, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown. Your voice matters. Join the conversation and be part of the revolution.